Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Top Shelf. This is a series where I'm going to be going through all the books that have the coveted position of the very top shelf of my bookshelf. These are the books that I would recommend to anyone and everyone at any point in time because they have just drastically changed my life. The first book we're going to talk about is On Writing Well by William Zinsser. This book is the classic guide to writing non-fiction. And this is one of those books that it seems like this should only apply to a small subset of people. This should only apply to people who are writers, right? If you're writing a book or if you're a songwriter or, if you do writing for some kind of a piece of your living, you should read this book and everyone else can kind of get a free pass. That is absolutely not the case. This is really a book about communication. And we do that every day as human beings. And this book is one of the ones that has impacted me in an everyday sense far more than I ever imagined that it could have, because every day I communicate. I write text messages, I write emails, I write books that I'm working on, I write songs that I'm doing. And what I find is that even in the spoken communication that I have, this book has impacted me. And one of the main ideas from it that I love, he talks about in the beginning, and he says, "Clutter is the disease of American writing. We are a society strangling in unnecessary words, circular constructs, pompous frills, and meaningless jargon. Our national tendency is to inflate and thereby sound important. But the secret of good writing is to strip every sentence to its cleanest components." And that is the idea that has just struck me and impacted my life every single day with how I talk in my communication and especially how I write in my communication. And the importance of this, what I think makes this book so beautiful is that William helps you understand that how you communicate is actually how you're defining yourself. He actually says in here, one of his quotes is, "How we write and how we talk is how we define ourselves." And so you should never say anything in writing that you wouldn't comfortably say in conversation. And later on in the book, he goes into this understanding of style and what we mean by saying we like a writer's style. And what he says is when we say we like the style of a certain writer, what we mean is that we like their personality as they express it on paper. And one of the fascinating things for me was in one of my previous jobs, there was a guy who I had emailed with a bunch of different times, but I had never met him in person. From the emails that I got from this guy, my opinion was like, I do not think I would be friends with him at all. And then I ended up going into the office a couple months later and I met this guy in person and we hit it off great. We became great friends. And it really struck me with this idea of, man, like he says things in writing and email completely different than how he says in real life. And he comes across as this pompous, stuck up person in his emails when he's really like very not that in real life. And so it just ingrained this importance of how you communicate is how you're presenting yourself and how you're showing the world, one of the ways that you're showing the world who you are. And so it's very, very, very important. And so when we look at what it means to write well, one of the best pieces of advice that William gives is he says, living is the trick. Writers who write interestingly tend to be men and women who keep themselves interested. That's almost the whole point of becoming a writer. I've used writing to give myself an interesting life and a continuing education. If you write about subjects you think you would enjoy knowing about, your enjoyment will show in what you write. Learning is a tonic. And I love that. I love that idea. That's so much of how I express myself and how I work through things and how I engage with the world. I love this idea of learning is a tonic. And that is one of the reasons why I think people should read this book, regardless of if you're a writer or not, because it will learn. And learning is a tonic that makes you healthier and makes you better and makes you smarter and makes you more succinct and makes you more able to communicate. It's something that builds your character. And that's another one of my favorite quotes in this book. William says, writing is related to character. If your values are sound, your writing will be sound. And this goes back to one of the ideas that I've heard on a channel that I follow on YouTube, and they were talking about how modern movies kind of suck. They can't write good characters, but how we look at these older stories and older books and older films, and they were more able to write really good, interesting, awesome characters. And there was a guy on there, and he made this comment, and he said, modern writers can't write characters because they have no character. And it just blew my mind with this idea of, he's like, the people, if you look at Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings, this is a guy who went to war and who was out doing life every day since he was a young man. And you look at some of these people that are trying to write stories now, they have no life experience. They have no character. They've never had to deal with anything hard. They've been told that they're great their whole entire life. And so they write these characters that don't know how to struggle through things because they've never had to struggle through things. And so I love the way that he talks about, this is ostensibly a book about writing, but it's also a book about living and a book about becoming someone who has something worth writing about. And then when you do, his final piece of the book is kind of talking about the actual work of writing, which applies to anything, whatever it is that you want to get better at and do the work of. But I had a couple of quotes that I wanted to share from that. One of the ones is that he says, "Be yourself and your readers will follow you anywhere. Try to commit an act of writing and your readers will jump overboard to get away. Your product is you." And this has been a hugely impactful thing for me in my songwriting, in my book writing, in creating these videos, is this idea of the only thing that I have to offer is me, what's genuinely me, my genuine reactions, my genuine list of the books that have actually impacted me, and not some, I have to plan out the perfect video and the perfect topic and any of this. It's literally just, this is me. This is the real, true, honest me. That's all that I have to give. And that has to be good enough. And so in the practice of that, the best and the only thing that you can do, what he says in here is decide what you want to do, then decide to do it, then do it. And that is the ultimate advice on anything, on building a YouTube channel, on writing songs, on writing books, on anything that you want to do. You have to decide what you want. You have to decide that you're going to do it. And then you have to actually go and do it. And the final quote that I want to leave you with, he says, "You learn to write by writing. It's a truism, but what makes it a truism is that it's true. The only way to learn to write is to force yourself to produce a certain number of words on a regular basis." And again, that quote is ostensibly about writing, but really it's about life. Really it's about learning anything and getting better at anything. If you want to be a dancer, the only way to get better at dancing is to dance on a consistent basis. If you want to be a songwriter, the only thing to do is write songs on a consistent basis. If you want to be a filmmaker, you have to make films on a consistent basis. That's the only way we get better and the only way we grow at what these things that matter to us and that we want to do. Again, this book, one of the ones I would recommend to anyone and everyone out there at any point in time. You cannot go wrong reading this book. That is why it was the first book on the episode of Top Shelf. So if you've read it, let me know what you think. If you want to read it, definitely go out and get yourself a copy. It is so worth it. I promise you will not regret it. This book will impact your life every single day you're communicating. And if you can do that better, your life only gets better and less complicated for it. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this series, I will put this in a playlist. I've got quite a few books to get through, but all of them are ones that, again, I would recommend to anyone at any time, anywhere. They're incredible books that have massively impacted my life. And so I hope you like them, and I will see you guys in the next video.